When you consolidate multiple objectives, you don't even have to go through the list here. I'm going to go through each one of those aspects later on. You'll have different objectives, volatility, different time horizons, and you need to bring them all together into one metric. So when I list the problem, the first problem we have is a long-term time horizon. If you want to go to net zero carbon by 2030, and you're in 2020, it's 10 years away. We also have the problem that maybe your target is below the maximum. What do you do if what do you do if you have a target that is below 50% women in management, for instance? How you accommodate that? And then even worse, if you have a target, let's say you want to use 100% renewable energy, and you make that into a performance assessment that is used in compensation, you basically can only be below target. You cannot exceed the 100%. What should we do with that? I mean, is it fair to your employees and to your shareholders to say, we are at 90% now because you just happen to use a little bit non-renewable energy that year? And then there is also a question about the upside beyond the target. This is the other problem. Let's say you want to have 20% recycled raw material. Well, if that is 100% of target achievement, if you have 40% recycled raw material, you're at 200% of target achievement. And since you will stay probably there because you have changed your production and your sourcing process, you will have 200% as your ESG achievement, which is just not sensible. Then we have the problem of volatility, because for each target that you have to set a minimum, a threshold, a maximum performance. And if you have a lot of volatility, you may end up being maximum or minimum, in oscillating years. Like 1 year it's everything, and then it's nothing. And what do we do with volatility? What do we do with line of sight? What do we do with timing? If we have here on the right side, you want to go from 1,000 emission to zero emission in 2030, 100,000 to zero in 2030. That may actually go very quickly at the beginning and then slowly at the end, or vice versa. It may go very slow at the beginning and very quickly at the end. So what do we do with the timing? So there are lots of questions, and we provided one solution that we believe covers this all. And I like to explain that solution. It starts with differentiating between targets and milestones. And targets for us are things that are further down in the future. These are the targets that you want to reach eventually. And milestones are what you do on the way there. So this, at this moment, sounds quite simple, but to be honest, the simpler it is, the better actually. And we believe with this differentiation, you actually have something that solves a lot of the problems we mentioned today. So examples I've listed here, you can read that. And the solution would be, if we have a short-term milestone achievement and we surpass that takes precedence over the long-term target, which means at the beginning of your process, when you still have 10 years ahead of you and you're actually making a lot of progress, that should actually be your performance. While when you finally end, when you finally are at the end of you, and you're close to your target, and when maybe your milestone is not achieved, but you're very close to target, then the target should take precedence. So we have a simple rule which basically says target achievement is the floor, and milestone achievement is your upside for your manager. And that now needs a couple of more things to think about. It's a little bit complicated, I know, at this moment. The good thing is you only have to do it once at the beginning of the design, and will work forever, for a long time at least. When we look at targets, we have to think about the scale. Let's say the target can go from 0 to 100%, let's say 100% recycling. Then you have to think first that how high can a target achievement go? Because you would expect that above target is quite difficult. We recommend that targets have an up to 120% scale, 120% of target. That can also work for diversity, like here on the right side. If you have women managers, for instance, your target may be 30% women, because that's already difficult. But obviously, if you go all the way up to 50%, that's still good. But then at the end, you may actually at one point be discriminatory against men, and the performance should actually go back down again. So it can work for all types of metrics, and for each target, you will have to set a 1 to 120% scale. This is the one part of the second part of the solution. And since managers are not so motivated by just being able to reach 120%, you have to have a higher achievement scale for your milestones. And the typical way of using performance assessments for compensation is you go between 0 to 2 times your target. So we believe an up to 200% scale is useful for milestones. What is important here is no matter what scale you have here on the horizontal axis, be it tons, percentages, percent surpassed peers, millions of wages, whatever your target is, it has to be converted with a function like you see here from a 0% achievement to a 200% achievement. And if I summarize now all that I have said, it's 3 things. You have to scale all your targets and milestones where in a way that 100% means achieved. You do this for all ESG metrics that you prioritize, your company prioritizes, not others. Your priorities count here. And the third point is, while long-term target achievement is still far away into the future, short-term milestone achievement has precedence. In other words, short-term performance cannot fall below long-term target achievement. We can also call it a performance floor. This is the technical term in compensation. The rules presented here are applicable to all 170 ESG metrics that we have, and we are confident that they will also apply to any future metrics that we'll find over the course of the next couple of years when we continue this ESG panel. So we believe we have now a system where you can assess each metric individually and then consolidate it towards an overall achievement.